Hey guys, it's Hunt for Games, and slowly but surely we are continuing down the road of all my favorite Notorious Monsters from Final Fantasy XI. But just to quick get it out there, we're getting really close to hitting 2,000 subs on this channel, which is just freaking incredible. I mean, thank you all so much for the continued support, seriously, especially in the Final Fantasy XI videos. I'm so glad to see so many of you enjoying my favorite game as much as I do. So let me know in the comments what you guys want me to do for my 2K video special. What do you guys want to see? I can do another Q&A video like I did for 1,000 subs. That was a lot of fun. Is there a new game coming out that you guys desperately want me to play? Something totally out of left field that I haven't even thought of. Seriously, all suggestions are welcome, and I'll use a totally non-scientific method to pick whatever seems to be suggested the most, whatever seems like it's the most fun. So seriously, thank you guys, thank you so much. I can't wait to hit you at the next big benchmark. I guess 3,000 will be the next big one. Seriously, again, thank you. But anyways, on to the Final Fantasy XI Notorious Monsters. And we're getting into a bit of a special week for me, because as a Taru Dragoon, desperate for any help I could possibly get in the gear department, I camped a couple of these guys, not just for fun, not just for money, but for the gear. The gear was amazing. But before we get to those, I'm going to get my money-hungry hands on some high-priced equipment that I was never going to use, and I knew it. Some Bard instruments. Bard instruments are hilariously overpriced for whatever reason, which is hilarious because a naked Bard still had a much better chance of getting a party than most of the jobs that I actually leveled. Bard was the only job that I really struggled to get into, but it was so good, I wanted to level it all the time. And I'd look at these unique pieces, like you just look at another piece of gear and it's like, oh, +5 mind. I'm like, I've seen gear that does +5 mind, but Bard gear would be like, plus wind instrument skill. And you're like, what? That's so weird. That's such a unique thing in Final Fantasy XI. I gotta want to level Bard. That sounds so cool. But now we've made it to Mew the Turtle Rider, a Sahagin that hung out in the Yatunga jungle. Now I expect we're going to have some mixed thoughts on this guy, depending on when you camped him, because he dropped the Elephant. The Elephant was a weird instrument. It was one of those things with a +3 win instrument skill, but only when outside of your nation's own control. So like 1 week a camp would be great, and the next week that piece of gear would suck. I used to hate when there was gear like this, especially it was like +4 strength in areas not occupied by your nation. I'm like, that's cool. Except when I'm only leveling in the jungles and Winders controls it, and then I move on to the next area, and it's a week later and Winders controls that area, and they never actually are useful for my leveling experience. He had a 25 to 35% drop rate, but long, painful respawn of 21 to 24 hours. We've seen that before. Like all items with such strange requirements though, it was a bit controversial. When first released, it sold for anywhere between like 100k to a full million, but eventually players started to realize that the +3 skill just wasn't really beneficial enough to support the price and, you know, its weird, sometimes usefulness, so the price plummeted. Fun while it lasted though for anyone who got him, and certainly a fun reminder of the fickle market that is Final Fantasy XI's economy. How many times have you guys gotten burned when you buy something for like 800k and you're like, I don't think it's really worth it, I'm gonna go sell it back, and I guess everybody else realized before you it wasn't worth it and it dropped to like 10k in the week that you weren't paying attention. But Sahagin must be the name of the game tonight, because the next Notorious Monster spent his time hanging out in Sea Serpent's Grotto right next door. We're the Sandcomber. I've never said that out loud. We're the Sandcomber. We're dropped the Holy Ampulla, a perfect representation of gear in Final Fantasy XI. Seriously, the Holy Ampulla was +1 mind and +5 MP, and it was an ammo slot piece. Obviously a value to white mages, red mages, or scholars looking for some additional mind. But it's 1 mind. It's clearly not gonna make or break a job, but nonetheless, 1 mind is the best you can do in that slot for a long time, meaning it's sold for a decent amount, usually over 100k depending on your server. Is it worth it? Probably not, but that's how this game works. It wasn't always balanced or equivalent across all slots, jobs, gear, options. Unrelated, but I once spent like every cent that I owned buying the Scorpion Harness +1 for my Dragoon because I wanted to be the best I could be. It was like +2 accuracy and +2 evasion more than the regular Scorpion Harness, and like 10 times the price. And the price per value benefit, like +1 mind should not be worth 100k. All of my friends laughed at me like the idiot I was and convinced me via peer pressure that I had to sell it which I still give them shit about that I like wasn't allowed to keep my Scorpion Artist +1. But the imbalance is what made it so exciting and fun. I think I came across this guy camping other things every once in a while, but I'm not sure what the drop rate was. Some of my favorite artwork for gear too, that little Ampula thing, it is cool. It was just like a cool piece of gear because you're so used to the shittiest neck pieces and like ammo slots, and then you've got this like Ampula. Bringing us to the fun stuff for Dragoons. The first one isn't exactly unique to Dragoons in general, but given that Dragoons were so starved for offensive gear as it was, you needed every little bit you could get. Often, Badoo, God, I hated it there, lived this asshole, Gabu the Unvanquished. I guess it was just Gabu Unvanquished, but whatever. Besides the fact that Badoo might be one of the worst areas in this game in terms of just pure annoyance. I mean, seriously, do you want to be silenced or like have plague? Those are your options. You can't. But also, this guy was a red mage, and everyone knows red mage mobs are the worst because they tend to just break little rules of the game. They just do everything, and Square Enix can be like, what? They're red mages. They totally get that spell eventually. Maybe a few levels early, whatever. They dispel you and sleep you, and they're just a pain. This guy drops one of my favorite gear pieces, though, the Valkyrie's mask. Not because it looks cool. I actually don't really like the whole full face mask, but it's like open kind of look. It wasn't a big thing for me. I don't know. I think I remember when I was wearing all this stuff for Dragoon and I had the Valkyrie's mask on. I think the Brigandine. It was cool. It was cool looking. I was like, I'm badass with my spear, and Tars just like lift a leg and like fall forward with their spear. It's like so bad looking, and not because it was an easy drop rate. It was like 10%. It was like actually kind of bad, but it was +7 attack, and Dragoons could wear it. Oh my god, I was so happy when I had this thing, because seriously, Dragoon gets like no gear for the longest time, and +7 attack is like the most attack you can get on any gear slot at that level. I was like so freaking excited. He was a pretty popular dude because of it, because Dragoon wasn't the only job that could wear it, and +7 attack is pretty good for a head slot for most melee jobs at that time. Getting a drop on this guy because of that could pay for quite a few pieces of gear if you decided to sell it. Of course, good luck getting him alone. He was always camped. So finally we get down to one of my personal favorites in Final Fantasy XI, like even out of my favorites. A truly annoying but just fun Notorious Monster, and my favorite kind, one that only Dragoon can even appreciate. Sarah out on Perogano Isle. Sarah drops the Volan's Greaves. Dragoon only, not that it matters because they only do jump accuracy +4 and no one else even cares. I love these things. They felt like such a uniquely awesome piece of gear that only helped Dragoon and separated the really good Dragoons from the just okay Dragoons while leveling. Realistically, like everything else, it probably didn't matter that much. It's +4 accuracy on only jumps, but I camped this guy over and over again until I got them, which shouldn't have taken as long as it did because it's like a 20% drop rate. It's uniquely insane and hard to get. It's gonna be ridiculously expensive. I've said this plenty of times, and I'll say it a plenty more, I'm sure, before this series is done, but gear like this is what made me love Final Fantasy XI. Far out on a distant island, with the only point of entry being like an 8-minute boat ride that comes once every 20 minutes, there sits a Notorious Monster, hiding far back in a corner of that island that drops a unique pair of boots that only benefits one ability on one job. Like, what is that? Somebody made that piece of gear specifically for that ability of Dragoon. You don't get unique stuff like that anymore. Gear in MMOs is so copy-pasted now to more easily achieve balance, which is just fine. It's just kind of lame. You miss out on all the cool stories, all the unique pieces that you're like, I've got this thing, only Dragoons get it. Anyways, guys, that's it for the 45 to 50 region. For all those asking about the Fomiuna, that's a tough one, the Aqueducts, and the Subligar down there, and those cool pieces of gear, don't worry, I think I'm going to do a special on just those guys because I have a whole history with that shit, and what an important area for just a lot of stuff. Leave in the comments your favorite story about these 4 Notorious Monsters and any NMs from the level range that I totally missed. Sorry. Like the video if you liked it, and please subscribe if you're new. I've got plenty of videos coming each week, and I really hope to see you guys back. So, thanks for watching. Shout out apology to Cerebral on Odin. I logged in to see if he was up to get some footage and killed him. It turns out Cerebral was camping him for weapon upgrades, so I feel kind of like shit about that. Really sorry.